The woman you're about to meet endured such horror it almost destroyed her. As a 12-year-old, Lindel was sexually abused while a boarder at Toowoomba Prep, one of the Anglican Church's elite private schools in Queensland. Her attacker always told her, "Don't tell. No one will believe you." And as it turned out, he was right. Her cries for help were ignored by the school, the church, and the then Archbishop, Peter Hollingworth. He went on to become Australia's Governor-General, while Lindel's life spiralled out of control. But one day, Lindel decided she'd had enough, and what she did next saw the beginning of the end for the Governor-General. Lindel's battle is now a movie called Don't Tell, and tonight, for the first time, she does tell her extraordinary story. When you came here, many hopes and dreams you had.
I did. I thought, wow, the opportunities, they're endless, and I wanted to take advantage of that.
It's a precarious walk along the edge of the Great Dividing Range in Toowoomba. But for Lindel, being on top of this precipice feels like a new beginning. Are you in a happy place now? Are you at peace, if you like?
Yes. Yeah. Luckily.
It's taken Lindel 27 years to get here. To claw her way out of the depths of despair after being sexually abused as a little girl at her school. What did you lose? What was stolen from you?
My will for life was stolen from me. At times I did find I didn't care about the world. Like things like my first kiss was stolen from me, having a first boyfriend, like all those sorts of things was all taken and without permission.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, cheese!
Lindel's story would have remained hidden if not for her small-town lawyer, Stephen Roach, who was so affected by her struggle, he turned it into a movie.
You stay away from me!
It tells of how he helped Lindel take on an exclusive private school and the Anglican Church. The true story of a battle that saw the beginning of the end for the former Governor-General of Australia, Peter Hollingworth. Back in 1990, this was Toowoomba Prep School. It was considered the cream of the crop, the jewel in the crown of Anglican education in the Brisbane diocese. But in truth, behind the glistening facade, it was a school that harboured dark secrets. The place where Lindel walked in as a 12-year-old country town girl and then walked out less than a year later, shattered and broken.
I was probably naive in the world as well, coming from such a small country town and things, but not really street smart, I suppose.
Lindel didn't know it then, but on her very first day as a boarder at Toowoomba Prep, she met the man who would become her abuser, Kevin Guy, the school's boarding master.
I remember he was very much focused on my parents, getting to know them and gaining their trust.
How long did it take, do you think, for him to become interested in you?
It was probably towards the end of the first term, just before Easter, that he sort of started to make me feel special.
The grooming had begun, and within a few weeks of term 2, Guy was sexually abusing Lindel, who was just 12 years old.
I froze, I didn't know what to do.
Immediately, you felt this is wrong.
Yeah, but trapped.
What did he actually say to you?
He said to me, "Don't tell, because if you do, no one's going to believe you." Because, you know, he was the adult and I'm the child, and probably in the same breath he was telling me that he loved me.
One of the things he would do is communicate through notes, is that right?
Yeah.
And that would say?
Meet me in the common room at whatever time.
And, I mean, it would be sometimes be quite late at night, is that right? Yeah. I can't imagine what you then were thinking.
Well, if I didn't go, I'd get into trouble. He could make my life hell if he wanted to. He had that much power in the school over the borders that he could punish us.
The sexual abuse lasted for 8 terrible months. And with every attack, Lindel became more and more desperate.
I begged my parents not to send me back after every school holidays. They didn't know why.
So this is a letter that...
All these years later, Shine lawyer Stephen Roach still finds it hard to read Lindel's correspondence to her parents.
And then the letters progressively get more terse.
Letters like this one.
With something that says,
Oh,
get me out of here.
I really need to get out of here. Oh, God.
And so that's sort of a cry for help to mum.
God, that's awful.
My mother was so disturbed by that one particular letter. She got in the car and she drove up to Toowoomba. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to, but yet I had this male figure who could punish me at school without my parents knowing if I told anybody. And I was paralysed, I suppose, as well inside that. And I was torn. I didn't know what to do. Didn't know that it was happening to anybody else.
But it was happening to other girls. And towards the end of that year, one of them went to police. She believed Lindel was also a victim. And with that news, a detective rang Lindel's parents.
They were flabbergasted, and I guess they blamed themselves in a sense. Guess they've carried that guilt all this time too, mind you.
Even after police charged him with multiple child sex offences, Kevin Guy continued to contact Lindel. At the end of her first year at Toowoomba Prep, he sent her this letter and Christmas card.
And it says, Dear Lindel, enjoy Christmas and 1991. I will be thinking of you. Kay.
How inappropriate.
And with it is a letter. Don't write anything personal in your letters. I know you will know what I mean. It might be a good idea to destroy this letter. Miss you a lot. Enjoy your holidays. Love, Kay. To Lindel.
It's an incredibly brazen thing to do.
Yes.
And
Like damage control. Don't tell anyone.
on the first day of Kevin Guy's trial, he committed suicide. He left behind a shocking note naming 20 schoolgirls, claiming that what he did was love. Unbelievably, the police didn't investigate further, and despite Guy's horrific admission, the school sent out letters to parents and students mourning his loss.
And not caring about us at all, not mentioning that, oh, we're going to help you, we're going to give you, support you in counselling, we're going to do everything that we can. No, they praised Kevin Guy, but no mention of getting any help for us.
For Lindel's psychologist, Joy Connolly, this was a shocking case of abuse she believed needed an immediate response.
I wanted the school to acknowledge it because it's so important, and their degree of recovery is dependent on how well they're believed. If they're not believed, that impedes their recovery.
What did that rejection do to Lindel?
Terrible, because his words kept her having flashbacks to him. Don't tell anyone, because if you do, they won't believe you anyway and you'll get into a lot of trouble. It was exactly what happened. exactly what happened.
Even though Guy was dead, Lindel was struggling, and her life began spiralling out of control.
I started getting into trouble. I was suspended, expelled, ran away from home. Yeah.
Is this just you angry?
Yes. Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. And I guess I was punishing my parents because, in a sense, they had failed me. And I didn't realise I was just so selfish and so self-centred with my anger and everything that I didn't actually quite realise how much I was punishing my parents for failing me, and yet they were punishing themselves.
But it got worse. Lindel started hallucinating. She believed that Kevin Guy was alive and following her.
So I rang the sergeant of police and said, can I get some photos of him dead?
You see, that for me is the most extraordinary thing to do.
Well, it was what I had to do. She had to know he was dead. The only way she was going to know he was dead was to see photos of him.
Well, I was petrified. I was so nervous, but shaking. But I needed to do it. I had to pull through, and I needed to do it for my own sake.
What Lindel desperately needed was acknowledgement that she had been abused, and particularly from those who'd let her down in the worst possible way. The school, the church, and the one man who could have helped ease her pain, the former Governor-General of Australia, Peter Hollingworth. Peter Hollingworth was in charge of the diocese at the time and became Australia's Governor-General. How do you view his actions in all of this?
Dog. He thinks he's a man of God, but he's not. He doesn't deserve to be. It's appalling. It's a pompous prick, really.
Why do you say that?
Because he's supposed to help people, take them in, you know, but he never did that. He always distanced himself.
Coming up, he'd never actually said those words to anyone before.
No, it was like being abused all over again.
A grueling court case sparks the beginning of the end for Peter Hollingworth.
He turned his back on us, essentially.
That's next on 60 Minutes. When 12-year-old Lyndal was sexually abused by her boarding master Kevin Guy at Toowoomba Prep School in 1990, the school did nothing. Out of sheer desperation, Lyndal's mum turned to Brisbane Anglican Archbishop Peter Hollingworth, who was later to become Australia's Governor-General. Her many calls went unanswered, but he did eventually write, but offered no help.
He should have supported us. He should have said, look, what can we do for you? There should have been more care, more empathy. The sympathy should have been there, but never was. And he never gave that.
Lindal's psychologist, Joy Connolly, did manage to get through to Peter Hollingworth, but she couldn't believe the response.
He said, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I need a holiday, and anyway, there's nothing I can do.
How did you react to that?
Well, I'd been brought up in a church family to think that church leaders were good and honest people. I could not believe it. I was devastated then. And where do I go from here?
But what were you expecting from him, and what do you think he should have done?
I was expecting, in my absolute naivety, to think that he would tell the school to do it properly and at least apologise to the girls.
You've never even told your parents the whole story. I mean, how can you tell a whole courtroom.
Lindel just couldn't escape the memories.
Keep saying it.
So she did what few others have done. At just 19, with lawyer Stephen Roach's help, she made the brave decision to sue the school and the church in a civil court action. Why did you do that?
I needed justice, and I wanted the school to know that they had wronged me and others, and that they had to be held accountable.
Because you felt that they didn't believe you?
Didn't believe me, didn't want to know. And I thought, well, fuck yeah. Yeah.
If we go to trial, this becomes public. Very public. Every sordid detail of what happened to you in that school will be dragged through the papers.
Do you want to do it or not?
I saw this inner strength in Lindel that you see in some clients, but not all.
And was that enough to tell you that this is a young girl who can do this?
I thought that she could do this.
This place represents what to you?
Closure in some sort of ways.
It took nearly 4 years, but in late 2001, the trial began in Toowoomba's Supreme Court. Lindel spent 2.5 days in the witness box. It would be the first and only time she's given the intimate details of her abuse. You'd never actually said those words to anyone before?
No.
How terrible was that?
It was like being abused all over again.
Have you been able to put those words away now?
Yeah.
And where do you put them? Where do they go?
In a welded box.
Welded tight.
In a welded box, yeah.
Four weeks after the case began, the jury returned a verdict in Lindel's favour. They awarded her damages of more than $800,000.
She has had to live for more than 10 years with psychological scars of this abuse. No amount of money will make those scars go away.
It's bittersweet because you can't high five and say we've won, because all that's happened is that what you've known to have occurred, somebody else has said, yep, yeah, it has.
Should you stay on in your job?
Lindel's win would be Peter Hollingworth's loss, who was now Australia's Governor-General. He faced intense media scrutiny over his apparent lack of action.
Dr. Hollingworth, do you have anything you want to say about the case in Toowoomba Preparatory School?
Not today, thank you.
And his attempts to explain himself only added to the criticism.
I think I'd say that I wasn't up to it.
In 2003, 18 months after the court case and after the church's own internal investigation, the Australian Governor-General resigned.
Dr. Hollingworth described allegations against him as unwarranted and misplaced.
Do you look at him as somebody who could have really made a huge difference?
Yeah, I do. He had the power to do that, but he never acted on that power. He turned his back on us, essentially. That's what he did.
Lindel's court case had a significant impact on the school, the church, and the town. Stephen Roach thought the chapter had finally closed. But 10 years on, after the school was found to have known of the abuse and did nothing, he was hit with this bombshell.
So I'm sitting in my office in 2011 and another Lindel walks into my office. With her parents, I've been abused at Toowoomba Prep by a teacher. And I thought, after all that's happened, all I could think of is nothing's changed. So you almost give up and you think, I've just made no scrap of difference. And that's where I got the idea for the movie.
Stephen Roach is executive producer of his film Don't Tell, and he made sure the first person to see it was Lyndal.
I cried. What really gets me every time is the very last scene, where there's big me, little me, sitting there, and put her arm around and...
So that sort of sums
Sorry.
up. No, I understand.
Yeah.
It kind of sums up how your life was. Lindel is now nearly 40. She's the mother of a 7-year-old daughter, and she's flourishing in her new career in teaching. But she's still angry at those who failed to protect her, something she can never forget.
Oh yeah, it's still there. And I don't think it'll ever go away, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing either. That's always what's kept me going, is that anger, that fire in me. It's also given me a passion for life, believe it or not.
Hello, I'm Liz Hayes. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.